On this episode of the Arrival Lounge, we are joined by Nomusa Moyo. She has flown in from Johannesburg to be with us today, and we're going to be talking everything about IELTS examinations, how to prepare accordingly, how to master the exam on the day. And I'm sure most of you are very interested to find out exactly what the hacks are and how to get through what could be quite a pressurized situation. So without further ado, let's get into it. Nomusa, good to have you in the studio today. How was your flight?
Oh, we thank God that I got here. It was delayed, but I was very excited. I was looking forward to the podcast. Now that I'm here, I have a lot to share.
I think that it's such a topical conversation. It's a question on a lot of people's minds as to how to deal with this particular matter.
Mhm.
So I think that the audience is going to take away quite a bit today.
Of course.
So you're an IELTS coach,
Yes.
right? Based in Johannesburg,
Yes.
and you deal with all types of individuals, students, professionals wanting to immigrate abroad. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I do deal with a wide, a lot of people from different backgrounds, because IELTS is a requirement for a lot. Okay, a lot of, for example, for students, your professionals, your tradespeople, as long as you want to go to an English-speaking country,
Yes.
it's a requirement. And so that means I deal with everyone who's going.
Why do people have to write the IELTS exam?
So the test is a competency test. They basically want to see if you can function in an English-speaking country. That's the long and short of it. And so they test you in 4 areas of language, which is your listening, reading, writing, and speaking, to see if they do give you a visa. Are you going to be able to speak? Are you going to be able to function in the workplace? Are you going to be able, to even function socially? So that's the long and short of it.
So they want the applicant or the candidates, when they arrive in this country, they want to know that they can speak the English language well, they can integrate into society, they can perform functions in their occupations well, they can communicate with local citizens, etc.
Yes, that's basically what it is. And for students particularly, it's important because you are going to study. So you're not going to have like a pre-study training.
Yes.
So they just want to have proof that when they do give you a visa and you do get to start your studying, you are not going to be at a disadvantage where you now have to start learning the basic language before you start focusing on what you are there to study.
Why is the IELTS exam such a feared thing? We deal with immigration, and almost all of our clients have to complete this examination. But it's one of the topics that come up first in terms of the fears that our clients have. Why is this?
Well, firstly, I think there's a lot of misconception and there's a lot of ignorance about the test. That's firstly why. But I think the other thing that's happening is because it's a test that you don't know that you need. It's a requirement. You are not aware that you need it until you start thinking of immigrating. Then you discover these acts. And so there's not a lot of information around what it is. And I myself personally, I didn't even know about this test until I worked for the organization that administered the test.
You actually did the marking for these exams.
Yes.
So you kind of know like exactly what's and has the test changed since you once did that?
Well, firstly, I was an IELTS marker for about 4 years.
Okay.
And so I was trained as an IELTS
So you were the person that they feared.
Yes, and I held your life in my hands.
Your future.
Yes. But really, the test hasn't changed much. But what they have done, especially for the region, is they've introduced the computer version of the test. Before it was only paper-based.
Okay.
So I think over the past 4 years or so, they introduced the computer version. And then what they've also done is they've also changed the way it's, especially for the paper. There was a part where you used to write in pencil. Now it's all in pen. They've also changed part of the marking and the administration process. It's not major stuff, but it's stuff that actually is significant as far as preparing is concerned, because you need to know all of that so that you prepare adequately.
And how did you prepare for that role as a marker? Did you study for that, or did you have to do exams yourself?
Oh, I had to take an exam, the
Okay.
same IELTS
Yes.
exam.
Yes.
So I was working at a different exam department at the British Council, and then there was an opening for marking. So I
Yes.
just thought, okay, let me apply. And I didn't know that I would have to write. I thought I would just sit and beat. It was never an interview. Okay, they'll just give you a test to write, and they'll tell you if you don't get 38 out of 40 minimum, you can't reapply.
That's
for
a
this
high
test
pass mark.
ever again.
Oh, ever again?
Yeah.
That's a very high pass mark.
Yes, it is. But what that does is they wanted to see, because it's designed and administered and set in the UK. So they were looking for people who had a Cambridge background.
Okay.
Yes. So that was my thing. I mean, I'd done my whole schooling, Cambridge. So it really wasn't that difficult.
You got your master's at Wits.
Yes, I got my
Yes.
master's at Wits, and I was doing literature. And I actually went to the British Council to work as an administrator.
Yes.
So I really wasn't doing anything that has to do with reading or writing or anything.
But you
like
were
that.
getting in there. Yeah.
Yes, of course. And so that was perfect because it helped me to quickly understand what the test is all about.
When I hear British Council, I think of these royals sitting a panel and they're marking exams. It's not really that, is it? It's not a government organization, is it?
No.
It's a private entity.
Yes. And so how this test is
And they've been mandated by the governments to actually.
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
So there's a whole science behind the test.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of professionals who design the test.
Yes.
And so everything that goes into that paper is well thought out.
Okay.
There is nothing like a mistake or they overlooked something. It goes through a lot of stringent processes. Designing, checking, everything. So when you finally sit and you're writing the test, what you are doing is you're basically dealing with something that has a whole varsity department behind it, different professionals from different fields. And so there's a whole science behind it. And that is why when you prepare, you also need to understand that as well, so that even in the preparation, there are things that you'll overlook that don't make sense to you. But these things are what makes the difference between someone who passes and someone who doesn't.
And has the test remained the same for many years, or does it change frequently?
It doesn't change frequently. What happens is, in terms of setting the questions, for example, for your essay question, they will sometimes focus on topical issues. So you will find that probably, like maybe, for example, during the COVID era, you would find a lot of questions around health. So there will be health.
So the main sort of structure is the same, the skeletal structure,
Exactly.
and then it varies based on narratives and world events. And
Yes. So the structure, it hasn't changed at all. So it's just focusing on different areas, different subjects, and all of that. But the structure, it doesn't change. And that is what I focus on, to say, understand the structure.
If you speak English, do you have to write the IELTS?
Of course you do.
But why? I speak English.
Okay.
I'm from South Africa. I speak English.
Well, firstly, it's not necessarily about your speaking English. Okay. For people who immigrate especially, remember we come from different parts of the world. So you might speak English in your home area, but they need proof that you do. And secondly, they're not even testing you on speaking English. Okay. It's kind of like something that certifies you to be competent. That's why people will be required to produce different band scores.
Okay.
For different fields.
What is a band?
A band is basically the mark that they award you when you write the test. And so, for example, if you do your listening, then they can give you maybe from a band 6 or a band 8. And so all of that is indicative of your level of speaking. So that is what a band is. It doesn't work by percentages. It works by bands.
I've always been very curious. How do they test you on speaking? Is there someone physically there listening to you speak?
Yes, with IELTS there is. So you can do like a face-to-face interview or a video. But what it involves is basically they'll be asking you very simple. I mean, like simple questions, like where is your home? What is your job? Kind of question.
Okay.
The idea is for them to assess, firstly, whether you can speak English, secondly, your fluency, and thirdly, how can I put it?
Like your comprehension,
Not
like your
not
understanding of what's being
yes,
asked.
yes.
Yeah.
But also to gauge your level, because your level is where they band you.
Ah.
Yeah.
And out of all the bands, I know that over the years, me being witness or us being witness to a lot of the results that our clients get, it seems like, I think it was writing that was the stickler. That was the one that the guys were always scoring a little bit less than what we thought they would score. Why is that?
So why the writing is seems to be such an issue is this: it is assessed differently.
Yes.
Your listening and your reading is very simple. You're given 40 questions.
Yes.
You either get 10 out of 40 and it's quite clear.
Mm.
But with writing, you have to do 2 tasks in 1 hour. And then they mark those tasks and then they merge the marks of those 2. So that is why it is a bit challenging, because they assess you, and it's assessed differently. What they're assessing is, unlike with writing, if I ask you, is this 1 plus 1? It can only be 2.
Mm.
But with writing, because it's creative. And so there's a whole lot of elements that they look at in writing that they don't assess in other areas.
Okay. That actually makes quite a lot of sense. So in terms of someone prepping very well, they could maybe be caught slightly off guard because of the creative element that is introduced when the writing questions are asked and the tasks are set. Right.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And even the nature of what they're examining. For example, you get an essay. Okay. So that's formal writing. Okay. There isn't much of creativity because that's formal.
Mm.
But with task 1, for the general paper, for example, you have a letter. And that's the most creative part of the test.
Mm.
But for the academic, you get to analyze a graph. So it's different things that go into that. And so you have to know that when I'm doing an academic paper, what am I required to do? When I'm doing the general paper, what am I required to do?
Mm.
Yes.
Let's touch on that. Tell us about the differences between the general and the academic IELTS, because some institutions require you to write general and others require academic. What is the major difference between the two?
Okay. So depending on the institution, usually for universities and some colleges, they will require the academic, but for some, they do require the general. I think it has to do with what it is that they focus on. But the major difference between the 2 tests is this: the listening part, it's the same for everyone. The speaking part is the same for everyone. The writing and the reading, that's where the differences come in.
Okay.
Because the academic paper is more stringent than the general paper.
Mm.
And when it comes to writing, both papers, there's an essay, but for the academic, there's a graph to assess, and for the general, there's a letter. So that is why essentially, really, the general paper tends to be way more easier than the academic, though, because of those differences.
A lot of the people watching this video will not be, English won't be their first language. They might be Afrikaans, they might be another language. Is it a misconception that they will struggle intensely with the exam, even with preparation? Because what we found is that sometimes our non-English speaking clients end up doing better than our English speaking clients, which means that it must come down to the preparation. So would you agree that it is to do with preparation?
100%.
Yes.
And this I see. The interesting thing that I've noted is people for whom English is like a second, third language, they understand that part. And so they do put in the effort. They put in more hours into the preparation. They work also on their basic English, of which they know it's shaky. And so they do acknowledge that. But with people who, especially your professionals or people for whom English is a first language, the assumption is that because I speak English, therefore I've got this test covered. I know what I'm doing. But in that, they miss the fact that there are technicalities, there are specifics of this test that you will not find in any other test. So I deal with PhDs who still struggle. Why? Because this has nothing to do with the PhD. This test has its own rules and requirements and technicalities. And so when you don't understand that, then you're going to say this test is difficult. But it's really not. You just have to understand what you're dealing with.
So you must prepare for this thing. You can't just walk in and write it, right?
Everyone has to prepare.
Which is kind of where you come in, right? And this is why you've made a career out of doing what you do. And I know that for a fact you do it very, very well. So, I mean, someone that doesn't prepare versus someone that does prepare, obviously the person that does prepare is going to do very well. But can you actually can you write this thing without any preparation? Is it impossible?
It is not impossible, but the one thing I will tell you is this: for every test, you need to prepare. It doesn't matter whether it's IELTS or schools exams
or a learner's.
Exactly. You must put in the sweat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens is with the preparation, it is important that you get the right kind of preparation. Because I know for a lot of people who come, maybe they've written this thing 3-4 times, and they're like, oh, I'd actually given up. This thing is difficult. And then when we go through the lessons, they realize there's nothing difficult. I just didn't know. I just didn't understand what is required of me.
And some of them just like repeat, and it almost hit their head the same way every time.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I've heard of cases where, they've written 4 or 5 times,
4 or 5. Okay, that's mild to put it. I'm dealing with a lady who's done this thing 3 years. Yeah. So
and each time it comes at a cost. So you I mean, just to make that small investment, to actually invest in the process, get it done once, but correctly.
Yes.
And then move on with the next part of your life.
Of course. Yeah. And it's not really about the cost. That's the one thing that I've realized, because somebody will say, oh, I don't have money for this, but there's opportunities that you're missing out. As long as you're not preparing properly, and there's windows of opportunities that close. You find probably there's demand for this skill now. 6 months later, there won't be. So that's one factor that people overlook sometimes. And secondly, again, with some countries where there's age limit issues, okay, you need to make sure that you apply while you still can, before they start having extra requirements because you fall outside a certain age range. And so again, also there's the other thing that I call IELTS fatigue. People will get tired. People will give up. They're like, why is it that I'm not passing this thing or this thing?
And it's like this perpetual cycle.
Yes. And someone will be like, I gave up. That thing gives me nightmares. And there's no need for that. It's really a small investment compared to and that certificate, by the way, is valid for 2 years. Okay? And there is no country in the world that doesn't recognize the IELTS certificate.
What is the difference between the IELTS exam and Pearson's? So Pearson's is another examination that is becoming more and more accepted. I think IELTS was the main one for many years. Now Pearson's is coming in, and a lot of countries are now saying that if you do your Pearson's, that's also fine. What are the main differences between the two? And if you had the choice, which one would you want to do?
So basically, they're both competency tests. They assess the 4 areas of language, speaking, reading, listening, and writing.
4 areas.
Yes, same 4 areas. But with Pearson's, it's strictly computer-based.
Okay.
So even from the speaking, everything is done computer. There is no paper version for Pearson. Whereas with IELTS, there is the paper version, and you also get to do your interview with an actual examiner. And then in terms of the structure of the test, that's another difference, because it's layered and structured differently. So with your IELTS, you get your 4 papers. Okay, they assess you in these 4. When you're doing speaking, you're doing speaking only. Listening only. But with Pearson, they kind of merge everything. So when you're doing listening, you're also having to do a bit of speaking as well. When you're doing reading, you're also having to do a bit of writing as well. But essentially, they test the same 4 skills. The other challenge, not the challenge, with the computer part for both IELTS and Pearson's is if someone is not really used or computer competent or literate, then they have to put in time to learn how to do that. But it's nothing hectic, really. Just a few hours. Once you grasp the concepts, and then you do probably your mock test 2-3 times, then now you know exactly what you're going to be dealing with in the test.
So part of the coaching that you provide does involve a mock test. So they can kind of go through the motions and actually experience what they could likely face in the exam and get comfortable with what might be asked.
Yes. And the good thing about both Pearson's and IELTS is this. They do have on their portals the mock tests available.
Oh, so they have it there?
Yes.
Yes.
So you don't have to go to another website to practice. You just, once you do your booking,
How
Oh,
similar?
IELTS.
How similar are they? Are they quite like? Because
Um,
that's if I was writing, and I mean,
mhm.
I would run straight there and just like it's like a cheat, right?
No, really, this is what I usually tell people. It depends where you're going. Okay. For example, if you're going to the UK, I know that UK now has its own version of IELTS, the UKVI, IELTS
Mm,
UKVI.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
So they will not accept the Pearson for
mm,
now. At least there are many organizations in the UK
mm,
because they want to build their own. So Pearson's is not really a thing in the UK.
mm,
Okay. So there are parts of the world, they are, of course, starting to accept it, but there are some that are falling behind others. So it really depends on where you are going. You need to make sure. I know, with Australia, for example, Pearson's is the thing,
mm.
the US as well. But you just need to make sure that you meet the requirements of the specific country where you're going. Because even if you do IELTS
Mm.
and they want Pearson, you have to do Pearson.
So IELTS, you have the general and academic. Does
Mhm.
Pearson's have the same differentiations between the skill levels, like a general and academic version of Pearson's?
Oh, yes, they do. They
Okay.
have the academic and
So, like
they have
for example,
both.
a teacher would a teacher that is doing Pearson's need to do an academic version of Pearson's?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. They will need to do the academic, but sometimes, again, like I said, it depends with the field. For some field, some have serious skills demand. So if you show up, I remember at one point they were wanting 2 band 7s for teachers and 2 band 8s in IELTS academic. And I know of cases where somebody got a 6.5 in one section
Mm.
and they did very well in the others. And because they really, really were in demand, then they got their visas. So it all has to do with making sure that the field that you're going into, you meet the requirement and make sure that you give them the test that they want. For example, one common question that I get is, oh, I did IELTS general. Can I use that for academic purposes? No, you can't. If they want academic, you produce academic. If you do general, you have to rewrite and produce the correct test.
What professions would one require academic IELTS if they're moving to Australia?
Okay, so it's your teachers, it's your medical professionals, your doctors, your nurses, your engineers.
So it's very much like highly skilled profession
Yes,
types.
it's really for the highly skilled. So for your tradespeople, for example, they often require the general.
No offense to the tradespeople out there.
No, not really, because really they are tradespeople. They're not going to be writing and reading
They're
every day.
working with their hands a lot, and
Exactly.
that's the main part of their job.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So it's
absolutely.
really just to make sure that at least basic English, basic skills they have. And so it depends with the field. But yeah, it's really for the academics, for your professionals. Yeah.
What is like, you see so many people walk this journey. What is the thing that you've recognized is of the biggest concern in the beginning, only to be later found out that it actually wasn't anything to worry about? What is that thing for that our audience might be thinking, they might have the same particular concern. And then obviously after they complete the journey and they do the coaching and they write the exam, they think, oh my word, why was I worried about that?
Of course. The main thing that a lot of people really show up and are concerned about is it even possible to pass this test? I know so and so has failed it so many times, and they're terrified when they show up. But really, once it's really to put them, at ease to say, this test will be difficult if you don't know what you're doing. So in terms of the teaching and the coaching that I do is, I know there are people who say, oh, I've come from so and so, and they gave me this whole pile of notebooks. There is no need for that. So what really the idea is to simplify this whole thing. This is what this section requires. Even with writing, people think that essay writing is like a mission. For example, the writing is notorious. But there's nothing difficult about writing the essay because it's taking you through the writing process. The presentation itself is important. People don't know that. You need to know what set of information to place where and why. Because if you don't do that and you just write haphazardly, you think you wrote a good essay, but you didn't.
It didn't have structure, didn't have a flow, etc.
So it's a hand-holding process. We start what goes into your introduction. there's this sentence, and this one follows this. This is how you start the sentence. These are the phrases to use. This is how long you should keep your sentences. This is what you need. All of those things. And that is how you get a good essay in IELTS.
So as they are partaking in the coaching with you, they're learning about what to expect, and their anxiety levels are slowly but surely dropping. Because I mean, the last time I wrote an exam was a long time ago. So I think this word exam is like this nasty thing, you know.
Yes.
And I think if you're working with a professional like yourself and you're going through it and you almost getting like tidbits as to what to expect, then your anxiety levels will drop because you are comfortable knowing what will be asked.
Of course. And remember, from the marking experience, I was not trained as an IELTS teacher. I was trained as an IELTS marker. So the teaching, because I used to teach anyway, so it's just basically worked into what I do. But when I instruct people to say, let's do this way, it's simply because I understand the rubric, what it is that your marker will do when they get your paper. There's things that people overlook. For example, when you go into the test and there's a whole set of instructions, by the way, that you're told, you must do A, B, C, D. And some people are blanked out during that. They're just waiting to hear start the test. But those instructions are what make or break the test because they will give you directions on how to write. For example, you cannot start by writing tasks with the graphs or the letter in the test, in the writing. That's a sure way to fail. You have to start with the essay. Why? Because the essay carries more marks. So even if you never do get, or you get to do half of your other task, if you write a killer essay, then you're good. But all those are instructions that they take you through. So people always think, they're just making noise, and what if it's just housekeeping? It's not housekeeping, it's important information that you need to know. And so all of that is what I tell them to say, when you go in, please, this is how you behave. For example, with the speaking, I had one candidate, she says to me, I actually refused to answer the examiner. And I said, why? And she said, because he looked so unfriendly. And I was like, okay, next time when you go in, okay, your job is not to make friends with the examiner. Your job is to answer what they ask you. Okay. So however the examiner looks, that's not anything to concern yourself with. Your job is to make sure you answer the questions and you follow this approach and you do it this way and you do it that way. Suffice to say, she passed.
Because she got the information.
Of course.
So someone gives you a shot and they want to start preparing for this examination. How long is it? Like, how long is the course that you provide that covers all the areas that they need to cover so that they can be as best prepared as possible?
I usually advise no less than 4 weeks. And why? Because half the time people assume they will have all the time in the world. People are working, people are busy with other stuff. And so in the business of life, we must make time for IELTS. And so when someone comes to me with 2 weeks and they don't know what the test is, then that puts them under pressure. But if you give yourself anything between 4 to 6 weeks, and what that does again is if there's an area where someone is really challenged and they're really struggling, we have ample time to fix that. And so I really do advise for those who are planning, don't leave it last minute or think that, because there's also preparing for the mock, by the way. So it's not just learning, it's also going through the mock itself. Because anyone who goes to write this test and hasn't done the mock, chances of failing are very high because you don't even know what to do in the test itself. So there's a lot to be covered in preparation. So 4 to 6 weeks, they should be good. I know people give it 2 months. That's the best. Because even then, if there's a time where maybe someone is a crisis, life happens, someone's sick, a child is ill or something like that, we still have plenty of time within those 6 to 8 weeks to prepare.
And they can do it over a Google Meets or a Zoom. I was about to say Skype. It's long ago. Zoom. And they can do it in the comfort of their own home.
Yes, they can.
They don't have to come and see you physically, right?
No, they don't have to. Look, most of the time, people are working during the day.
Yes.
We only have time for lessons maybe in the evening. So we do use your Google Meets, your Zooms, and WhatsApp video. And the one thing that I will tell you this about South Africa, okay, especially when load shedding rears its ugly head. WhatsApp video is the most stable platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And we
Also,
use that a lot.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, and a lot of people sometimes they don't know how to work, your Zooms and all of that. So
Yes.
we accommodate everyone. We don't
Mm,
require you to be a tech guru. We just need you to be a willing student
mm,
and have your WhatsApp video if you prepare, or if you prefer, and we learn.
mm.
Mm.
So the takeaway is be prepared. It's not scary
Mm.
if you're prepared.
Oh no, IELTS is fun.
Well,
Yes, I did have this
please
one
explain
guy.
to me the fun part.
This is the fun part. When you know what you're doing, you're going to the test and you see
Oh, when you
everyone
know
is
what you're doing.
panicked,
Yes.
and you're like, I got this.
Yeah.
So I had this one gentleman, I asked him, how did the test go? And he said, oh, I just went to collect my certificate. And they did.
Mm,
And he was terrified when we started.
mm.
So there's nothing really to be
I
terrified.
think I would
in
come
this
for
test.
the emotional support
Of course, we throw
as
that
opposed to
in.
the technical
Yes,
knowledge.
yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to. Look,
You have to
it's
play counselor in a way, a little bit.
yes,
Sometimes.
but the good thing is this:
Yeah.
even in the counseling, everything and out. Okay, there's never such a thing as wasted time. So even if we might seem to be talking about something else unrelated, for me, it helps when it comes to the speaking.
Mm,
Because now I can easily assess. There's no innocent conversation with me, by the way.
mm.
So at least I'll be checking, okay, so what is it that they like? What is it that they do? I get to understand the person better. So that even when they go to the test, sometimes there are people that I see their struggle most of the time is confidence. So how do we work around this confidence issue? This is what you do. And lack of confidence, by the way, it shows in all the sections. So someone can write a poor essay, not because their English is poor, but because they lack confidence. And so these are things that I deal with as we write, help someone to relax and put them at ease and assure them you're on the right track. You're on the right track. So even if I say maybe write a paper and maybe they get like 5 out of 40 the first time, they are horrified.
It's like the devil. It's like the devil,
Yeah, they'll be
right?
like, oh my God, I'm hopeless. And I'll be like, no. For me, what I'm checking is I need to
Mm,
see your strengths and your weaknesses.
mm.
And I identify those and then we work on that.
I would do that in a heartbeat. I can tell you that right now. Because people don't know. They don't know what they're walking into. They don't know what to expect. Their environment, the system that is used to do the exam, everything. I would want to know every single thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the most important thing though for people is be willing to learn.
Mm.
Okay.
Don't come in arrogant and cocky and
No.
you're a master at English.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, you're going to be a customer.
A
You're not
repeat client.
They'll be calling you by name, I kid you not.
That's also a topic I want to touch on just after you explain what you
Yeah,
do.
so it's important to be willing to learn because I'm not teaching you English. I'm teaching you the IELTS test. That's the difference. And that's the one thing that people who come to me should understand that I'm not an English teacher. I teach IELTS, I teach PTE.
Mm.
So I teach you the specifics of this test. And if I see that maybe someone really needs to work on their basic English, then of course there's material where I refer them to. Please go and do this. This is what I need you to do. Maybe download this. This is what you do need to work on grammar and all of that. But that is commitment that they have to put in because improving English is the client and the students or business.
I have thought about this before, and I wasn't going to talk about it, but I think it is something that I would like to hear from you. Was there ever a period, or is there this thing that the markers or the actual council or the people that mark these papers, because it's a business, right? This is a business.
Yes.
So in any business, you want clients and customers, right?
course.
And repeat customers.
Mhm.
Is there any truth in the statement that they fail people on purpose to drive more business?
The one thing I'll tell you about IELTS is this. Okay, having worked at the British Council and having taught for the many years that I've taught this test, the one thing that works against people who want to write IELTS is myths like those.
Yes.
For example, I get asked this question, is it easier if I write in a different venue? I wrote in Joburg 3 times, I failed. Can I move to Pretoria? No, the test is standardized. So what you meet in Joburg, you meet in Pretoria. It's all the same thing.
Mm.
And secondly, there is no such thing where someone can say, I've heard this again. Oh, my friend wrote at a particular time of the year, and I hear the tests are easier that time. Again, there is nothing like that. So what works against people is myths, ignorance, and arrogance. Okay. And so someone will say, but I wrote a good essay. I know I wrote a good essay. And then they request a remark, and the mark doesn't change.
You almost need to be humble going into this, right?
Exactly.
Very
You need to see
humble, vulnerable, and open.
exactly
Yeah.
and figure out to say, okay, what is it that I got wrong? Not what is it that they did wrong.
Yes.
Because as long as you're saying they, you're not improving.
Mm.
What is it that I did not understand? And then you need to go back and sit and see, okay, maybe I thought, I'll tell you an interesting thing about the listening. This is the fun thing about listening. People will say, I know I got 40. Okay. For example, I give them practice. They
know,
write,
yeah.
oh yeah, I know I killed this paper. And then they get their results and they got 17 out of 40. They're like, no ways. Are you sure you marked this thing correctly? But when I take them through to say, okay, this is what you did that you should not have done, they are shocked. That I didn't know this is how this thing works. So they do nothing. All they do is they set the paper. They kind of understand how the human mind works. And then you like give a man a rope. And
yeah,
exactly.
I got you. Nomusa, how can whoever's watching this podcast, how can people reach you?
They can call. My number is 082 071 8399, or they can go onto our website and have a look, probably see what it is that they want to see. And then there's also our details on there. The website is www.ieltscoach.co.za.
Simple as that. IELTScoach.co.za.
Yes, yes.
We'll put all the descriptions, all the details in the description below. And then for New World Immigration clients, we'll also put your details on our portal so that it's very accessible. And then they can reach out to you directly.
Perfect. And so I do offer in-person, online lessons. It's really not an issue for our older clients, by the way. Those who come and say, oh, me, I'm old school.
Yeah.
I'm used to chalk and all of that. After the first lesson, they do relax. Because some of them, they're not used to this online learning thing.
Yes.
So we do, really the idea is we understand people come from different backgrounds. Okay, some people are tech gurus, some people don't even know how to use basic technology. And everyone who has to write this test, we understand. We consider your background, your particular needs, your particular challenge, and we work with.
I think it's crazy if you don't prepare.
No,
I just can't stop thinking about this now. I actually, before this interview even started, I was thinking, some people go in without, some people go having prepared, and what's really the difference? I speak English, and but
No.
it's actually, you've reinforced this idea, and I would strongly recommend people reach out to you and at least get an understanding of what you offer,
Yes.
The costs and the processing time and how long things take. And just to get the information so that they're educated, and they can make an educated decision as to what they want.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the sad part sometimes is people will come and they have booked and they've done everything, but they've booked the wrong module. They've done everything wrong. And so we just have to start from correcting that. Someone will say, oh, I just got told I need to do IELTS. I had no idea that there's different types of IELTS. Or I didn't even know that I could do the computer version and there's the paper version. So all of that, people need to know before they even book, before they even write. And it saves them a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, a lot of money. And again, it really gets, you can capitalize on opportunities while they're still there.
It's such a small price to pay, really, for the I wouldn't say guarantee, nothing in life's guaranteed, but for the knowledge of, and being comfortable, because the migration process in particular, it can be stressful if you make it. If you take all the necessary precautions and you do things properly and you follow the guidance that is provided by the experts like ourselves and yourself, then you can actually have quite a pleasurable experience. It doesn't have to be this anxiety-fueled process.
Yeah. Tears and crying. No, there's no need for that. And really, interestingly, one of the things that people say is this process is so expensive. But if you really ask them, where is the expense? The expense is in the repeat writing of IELTS.
Yeah. You can't put a price on emotional toll.
Of
That's something.
course. Yeah. So really, it's just one of those things. You just do yourself a favor. You write this thing once, and you go, and you know you're sorted. And again, the other thing that I forgot to mention that I think is important is for people to really realize that now, especially in South Africa, there is a new clause that the British Council have put in. So you can only do the paper version if you have a residency permit
Okay.
for South Africa. So anyone who does have a residency permit, by default, you get to do the computer version.
Mm.
So those are some of the things that people are not aware of. So you go and book, because it changed not too long ago. So it wasn't like that before. So people still assume, oh, things still, they work the same way, but there is that difference now. And so you do really need to make sure that, again, also with the UKVI module, UKVI test, people assume that if you have UKVI, you can use it anyway, but that's not the case. So these are things that can cost, and if you make a mistake, you book the wrong test, there's a fee to correct it. So it's not just the test now, we have to pay now for the correct date, for the correct module, and all of that. So it's not only stressful in the sense that the process, but IELTS can really, really do a number on you if you are not sure of what you're doing.
And here I thought that you only prepared for the exam itself, but it's actually so many technical things that sit around the actual exam itself, the booking, not just the prep, but the booking and everything else.
Yes. And there are some centers, of course, where parts of the country where they don't offer the computer version.
Yes.
So all of that you need to consider.
Yeah.
And test dates are in some provinces, some areas, there's like once a month. But if you need to write this test, like you need the certificate now, it means you need to go and write somewhere else. So all those are things that people need to really consider.
Well, I would highly recommend using your services, and I would.
Oh,
No.
I'll be nice to
Nomusa, it was such a pleasure having you here to speak about something that not many people know about. I've learned a lot over the past half an hour or so, but thanks so much for coming in. And again, Nomusa's details will be in the description below, or you can just rewind the video. She did let you know her number. Please feel free to reach out to her if you have any uncertainties when it comes to IELTS, and get prepared, get ready.
Yes. And the most important thing is just reach out. Some people, they work, I kid you not, there are people who work night shift. So they are awake while I'm sleeping.
Yes.
So they just send a message and I respond in the morning when I'm awake.
Why not?
Exactly.
Awesome. That sounds like good service. Thank you so much for coming in today.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
And we'll
of the
speak
time.
soon.
Thank you so much.